Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's watch and see what comes flying out of my face.
I think maybe that's why I've started to think about this, because I want something different than what we have.
So we've been saying do more, spend more time together for years. But this is different. This is a new level of commitment. And maybe, and this would be heartbreaking, there are some of us who are like, look, I don't want it anymore.
What is happening? So Janelle, in the one-on-one interview, is saying there are some of us that don't want to do us. Who? She isn't, I think, referring to him, to Cody. She must be talking about Christine and Mary, or Christine and Janelle. Wow, this is quite a thing.
I'm really sorry I still get jealous. I'm just saying. I still get super, super, super jealous, and I'm really, really, really sorry. It makes getting together hard. Really, really hard. Maybe I don't like me either. I'm not really strong on my own.
Okay, this is a good development. She's being vulnerable and honest and is taking responsibility. She's like, I don't deal well with jealousy. Kind of sounds like she's saying, I don't deal well with jealousy and I don't want to deal well with jealousy. I don't know. But at the end, it's great that she's talking about this. It's her experience. Maybe they'll all kind of chime in with their own experience as well. She was looking at Robin, so I don't know if that, in the edit anyway. So I don't, because I can't imagine that she would be jealous of Mary and Cody. Maybe Janelle and Cody, but I don't think so. So it must be Robin. And then she also says, maybe I don't like me because I don't like being alone. And that could be a thing. But it also just could be a thing that she just has, you know, one of the things that I've loosely concluded is that, you know, similar to sexual orientation, I think, based on anecdotal observation and just my own personal experience and also looking at the research, that whether it's how we're born or how we develop or a combination, that all of us are on some point of the spectrum between monogamy and polyamory or ethical non-monogamy, meaning that and people will vacillate, or they might have a range that they're optimal in. For example, for myself, I am a monogamist. I maybe, given my anecdotal experience, if I had to, you know, if I was raised in a polyamorous world, which arguably doesn't exist, I could see myself adjusting to it maybe, but there's a lot of evidence that, because, you know, I say this because, well, you know, there's a lot of things one could say is that how would we know, because of all the outside cultural influence on us, how would we know where we were on the spectrum, right? It's possible that there are people more optimal for polyamory, but because of society or the way they were being raised or the religion they're in, they're not even allowed to contemplate that question or experiment with it, you know? So it's hard to know for each of us, but through exploration, it can be done, and it is done because there's plenty of people, particularly here in Seattle, that are polyamorous and sex positive, and you know, whether it's polyamory or ethical non-monogamy or swinging or open relationship, you know, there's different definitions, and sometimes they're all talking about the same thing. Sometimes they're not. Swinging in particular is not necessarily related to polyamory, but anyway. So, and of course, there's infidelity that just happens, right? So the question that I wonder about them is, if this hypothesis that I have is accurate, then where are they on that spectrum? You know, because they could just be naturally somewhere on the spectrum of being optimally, in terms of their needs being met and the way things feel for them, polyamorous or open relationship or ethical non-monogamy. And they were just born into a polygamous culture, and in a more free culture, they might have actually done something like this anyway. Maybe not this particular configuration where there isn't other men in the polycule, but maybe, I know polycules where there is one man and several women. I know polycules where there's one woman and several men. So it's not all the ways the case that you have polycules, molecules that are polyamorous, that are a jumble of genders, non-binary folks and trans people as well. But anyway, so, I just don't know. But it's quite possible that none of them are on the end of the spectrum of polyamory. And so Christine might be that sort of way, that she is oriented towards monogamy and well, so I guess if I were to extrapolate on the data presented, if that is the case, that we are either born or develop into a particular orientation regarding monogamy versus polyamory, monogamy versus non-monogamy, then a lot of arrows are pointing in the direction that Christine is the most monogamously oriented. She has the most concern about jealousy. She talks about it. Janelle doesn't seem like she's as rattled by it. Mary, it's hard to know what is going on with her, because I normally in the beginning of the seasons, the first 7 seasons of this show, or I don't know, 10 seasons, where are we right now? 15 seasons, that I would have thought that Mary also was like Janelle and that she clearly is okay with sharing, but it's possible that Mary just she's not in connection with what she wants. So there's that. I think Robin seems to be adjusting pretty well, but you could argue that she gets the bulk of Cody's love and attention and that sort of thing. But I imagine that's not necessarily true after 10 years. It's probably cooled down quite a bit and might have cooled down right away. It might not have ever even been very hot in the beginning, because the way that they date and stuff, it's almost like arranged marriages, even though it's not. And they might not have ever had any kind of fire in their relationship. Anyway, so I'm just going to throw that out there, that she now, as a free, these women are starting to be, aside from particularly Christine, she seems to be talking more and more like a woman who is emerging into agency and contemplating everything. What do I want? What do I need? Do I want this? I don't think I want this. And it makes sense that she would be that person. She's always been more acknowledging of her needs, particularly compared to Mary. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of I don't know if this makes sense to you, but it has the, actual elements of this, but it also just has an echo of feminism, right? Of the feminist movement, really. In the past, if you just think, like, if we generalize to American white, in particular, middle-class women in the 50s, they were born into a system where they, generally speaking, had to operate in a certain way, where they didn't work and they were homemakers and they were supposed to be below the husbands in a very similar way to this family. And their only purpose in life, or their primary purpose, was kids and child rearing and homemaking. And then there was a movement to say, hey, certainly you can live that way, but we shouldn't be forced to do this. And there's a lot of bad things, like we get abused, we get cheated on, we get harmed, we get infantilized, not only by our husbands, but also by the law and by culture and society. And I don't like it. She's not going that far with it, but it has that vibe, doesn't it?
And it's surprising and it's hard. And I thought I'd be stronger on my own, but I'm not. And it's really hard to just feel like I can contribute anything.
Oh, what I was going to highlight was that she is wondering if she doesn't like herself, and that's why she doesn't like being alone. What I was wondering is if that might be something, but it's a lot to ask someone that might be more monogamously oriented to, one, just be abandoned for 3/4 of the week, but also to have to share. I don't want to share my wife with 3 other men, and I don't think my wife wants to share me with 3 other women, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you hate yourself, It doesn't mean that you can't stand to be alone with yourself. It just means you're being abandoned. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So when it comes to dating, people sometimes ask me about what sort of red flags and green flags they should watch out for. But the problem is that just knowing these flags, if that's all it took, then dating would be a breeze, right? And we all know that it's not a breeze. As a therapist, I have discovered that in order to help clients with dating, we need to go way beyond these flags. We have to talk about their attachment, their schemas, their relational traumas. And with these sort of things, it requires a personalized exploration that you can really only get in therapy. Well, one place you can find a therapist is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. They have over 30,000 therapists with a wide range of specialties. So discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
It's hard to find that balance of being strong and not being a bitch. It would definitely be easier to just do what we're doing now and to just let it be. It would be easier. And there's a lot of plural families that are just like this.
That's interesting. Yeah. So she's saying, I could just swallow my pride, or I could just stuff my feelings and settle and just say, okay, that's fine. There are a lot of other families that do the same thing. But I think Christine is saying, I don't want to do that, which I'm glad for. Yeah, she shouldn't have. She doesn't need to. She can ask these questions. She can divorce. She can leave, right? Can she leave? She hopefully, if she wants to.
It's not only that I don't hate you, I love you too.
I love you too.
So please don't ever feel that way
I'll try not to, I promise.
when it comes to me.
Okay.
If Cody is struggling with a wife, that doesn't mean that I'm struggling.
Robin is struggling with the words, as I think she does often, or sometimes. And in the edit, who knows, but Robin was like, I don't hate you. I don't know why she just didn't say that. But that's essentially what she's saying, I think. And in the edit, anyway, Janelle and Mary don't chime in, which could easily be interpreted that, at the very least, they don't care enough to dispel that idea and might hate Christine, which is hard to believe, honestly. So I'm guessing that was edited out, or I don't know. But if they don't appreciate Christine, there's a possibility that they built up a lot of resentments living together. And once they were not living together and had the option to not have to live together, that they just allowed themselves to turn that corner of like, as an analogy, it's like if you have an in-law that you don't like very much, but you're like, well, I don't know, they're married to my sister, or they're married to my cousin, or whatever, or a step parent or something, and you're just like, well, I can't really go there in my mind, because if I go there in my mind, I won't be able to function at family functions. And then when there's a divorce or something, you finally are free internally to feel however you feel. And that might actually unleash a certain level of negativity that you always kind of knew were there, but were keeping at bay to be functional in the system. So I don't know if that's maybe what happened. I have a hard time believing that Mary and Janelle hate Christine, though.
Her too.
You guys.
Please let me speak for myself here, okay? But I really just want to have relationships that are separate from whatever's going on with you and Cody.
Yeah, she is saying what she's always been saying, is she wants to have what she thought was happening in the beginning, which is that they're all friends. And in the beginning, she felt on the outside, but I think now they're learning that no one was on the inside. She did bond with Mary pretty well. Is that still happening? There was a lot of that. Mary and Robin both talked about how they really bonded in contrast with the others.
But right now, it looks like this is not something that we're enjoying. It's not something that we're even respecting. Ladies, why aren't you happy? If I have got a great relationship with one wife and not with another, is it plural marriage? That's the problem?
Okay, that makes it sound like he's saying he has a great marriage with Robin, and he's saying if there's any problem with the other marriages, it's because of their attitude. Is that what he's saying? And so there's I've been with a lot of couples through a lot of thick and thin, professionally and I suppose personally, and I wonder, how do we scientifically explain why two people fall in love and commit to be together for the rest of their lives and entwine their lives together, and then after a certain amount of time, they divorce? Now, in some situations, it's kind of obvious, someone's abusive or there's just like a ton of fighting. That doesn't seem to be happening here. A lot of the time, at the very least, it's distance that just slowly builds over time, hurts that build up over time, lack of effort or outside influences. And before you know it, you wake up one day and one or both of the people are just like, yeah, I think I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And it kind of sounds like that's what he's saying, at the very least, about the non-Robin marriages. And maybe Christine's saying that. I'm not hearing that from Janelle or Mary, but it kind of sounds like Christine is saying that as well. So it's tempting from within and from without to scapegoat and to look for some cause, someone to blame. But a lot of the times, it's just the way things worked out, and it's mutual, and both parties or several parties just neglected it and just didn't put the effort, didn't try hard enough, didn't have the right attitude, didn't believe, didn't have the goodwill, didn't build the goodwill, didn't dedicate the time and the effort or whatever. And before you know it, you're out of love and you can't do it anymore, and you might not even be able to build it back even if you wanted to. And there's a possibility that's what's happened for a variety of reasons, and the move to Arizona really just emphasized it or furthered it greatly, which is probably the way I would frame it. And there's no scientific way to measure this. And it's tempting to say, oh, it's Cody's fault, or it's Christine's fault, or it's Robin's fault. But from the edit anyway, I'm not seeing anything in terms of someone to blame. It's hard, though. It's sad. It's a loss. But when I think about it from another level, and it's bizarre to think about anybody divorcing anyone in this family. I mean, it's been, have 12 years of the four of them, and Janelle and Mary and Christine and Cody have been together for 30 years, 25, I think maybe almost 30 years. So that's pretty weird. But the way at least Christine is talking, so maybe it's for the best. I could imagine that being true. At the very least, it's possible that it's best if they experiment with it. Maybe they break up and then they find none of them like that and they return to it. That could happen. And it certainly wouldn't be hard because Cody doesn't really live with any of them. I hadn't thought about that. Usually when you get a divorce, it's like, you got to go through all your stuff. I think each of the homes, the way they talk, they've really separated all the property and the finances. I wonder if Cody owns anything except for a car, officially, legally speaking, So like if Christine wanted to leave, she might not, they're not even officially married. He's officially married to Robin, right? Originally he was officially legally married to Mary, but Mary actually volunteered to divorce so that he could marry officially, legally Robin so that he could adopt the kids. That's what they said. And one could wonder if there's some unconscious or conscious ulterior motive, but it didn't seem that. Mary seemed to be on the up and up with that. She wanted to give that gift. She saw the need, just like the kids, and everyone wants him to adopt those kids. And the father of the kids was seemingly a part of the equation and some kind of concern there. Anyway, so for Christine, she doesn't even have to file any paperwork. All that they'd have to do is just agree that he's no longer coming over. But maybe he would still, that's the thing, he might still come over to see the kids because he is still the father. So it might just be a matter of definition. Because I wonder if Christine and him are even intimate anymore. It's possible they're not. So I guess it would just be he would no longer sleep over. He would just come over and hang out with the kids or take the kids on an outing or something. So it would be such a minor adjustment. And I wonder if Christine were listening to this, she'd be like, yeah, I mean, that's how it is. In fact, it might even greatly improve my relationship with Cody because whenever he comes over, I feel deprived and angry. Whereas if we were divorced, I would not feel that way in all likelihood. And we would be a lot more friendly as co-parents. It's just kind of weird to think about. All right, well, they're playing the ending music. So, I'm guessing that right now I've published a lot of episodes just on that dinner conversation. Sometimes that happens because that was a biggie. I don't think we've ever had. They've had therapy sessions before. They've had talks before. Never has there been, and that's interesting. There never has there been as much self-disclosure, honesty, really. And maybe there wasn't anything to disclose in the past. But anyway, a lot happened. Point is that this is the end of this episode, and this is the end of a whole series of episodes, I'm guessing, in which I was reacting because, I've been recording these reaction videos today, and it's late at night right now, and I started, I don't know, what time was it, noon or something? And so, what a journey on one scene. But it was a long scene, anyway. Well, take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.